Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the ATN Weekly News Roundup. I am Favor Aham, bringing you the top stories that shaped the world, Africa and Nigeria. Beginning with the headlines. China imposes tax on condoms and contraceptives to boost birth rate. Zoran Mamdani sworn in as New York City mayor. Britain and France carry out joint airstrikes on ISIS sites in Syria. Trump announces capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Guinea coup leader Mamadi Doumbouya wins presidential election. UN Security Council condemns Israel's recognition of Somaliland. Peter Obi criticizes Nigeria's tax laws as anti-poor. Beyoncé becomes the world's 5th billionaire musician. Anthony Joshua injured in fatal Nigeria car crash. Now the news in detail. China ended a 3-decade tax exemption on contraceptive drugs and devices, introducing a 13% value-added tax on items such as condoms and birth control pills. The policy shift, which took effect on January the 1st, is part of Beijing's push to reverse declining birth rates after the country recorded its 3rd consecutive year of population decline in 2024. While authorities have also introduced childcare subsidies and exempted them from income tax, experts warn the demographic downturn is likely to continue despite these fertility-focused measures. In the United States, Zoran Mamdani was sworn in as the 112th mayor of New York City, pledging to govern as a democratic socialist and pursue an ambitious progressive agenda. The 34-year-old former state assemblyman took the oath at City Hall in freezing conditions administered by Senator Bernie Sanders. The ceremony featured speeches from Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and performances by musicians and school children, underscoring the symbolic shift in leadership for America's largest city. Meanwhile, British and French fighter jets carried out coordinated airstrikes on an underground ISIS weapons facility in central Syria. According to the UK Ministry of Defence, the target was located in a mountainous area north of Palmyra and used to store explosives and arms. UK Defence Secretary John Healey said the operation demonstrated aligned determination to prevent any resurgence of ISIS and its extremist ideology in the region. Political shockwaves followed in Latin America after U.S. President Donald Trump announced the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Trump said U.S. forces conducted a joint overnight military operation in Caracas, extracting Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, from what he described as a heavily fortified site. Both are expected to face U.S. criminal proceedings linked to a 2020 indictment on charges including narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. Now on to news from Africa and Nigeria, beginning in West Africa, where Guinea's military ruler, Mamadi Doumbouya, has been declared winner of the country's presidential election, securing over 86% of the votes in provisional results. The December 28th poll was the first since 2021 coup that brought Doumbouya to power and is widely viewed as an attempt to legitimize his rule. Critics argue that the process occurred amid a clampdown on opposition, leaving no serious challengers. The Supreme Court is expected to validate the results within days. At the United Nations, most Security Council members condemned Israel's decision to formally recognize Somaliland as an independent state. Somalia warned the move could destabilize the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea region, calling it an act of aggression. The United States was the only council member not to condemn the decision, though it maintained that its own position on Somaliland remains unchanged. In Nigeria, former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi criticized the country's tax laws, warning that economic prosperity cannot be achieved by placing heavier burdens on the poor. Writing on social media, Obi called for fair, transparent, and people-centered fiscal policies, stressing that sustainable development requires national consensus rather than punitive taxation. Now, on to the news coming in from the entertainment scene, where we have Beyoncé officially joining the ranks of billionaire musicians, according to Forbes. The 44-year-old global superstar reached the milestone following the massive success of her Cowboy Carter tour, which generated over $400 million in ticket sales, alongside tens of millions more in merchandise revenue. She becomes the fifth musician to achieve billionaire status, joining Jay-Z, Rihanna, Bruce Springsteen, and Taylor Swift. And finally, in sports, British boxing star Anthony Joshua was injured in a car crash in Nigeria's Ogun State that claimed the lives of two of his close friends and team members. The accident occurred on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and involved two vehicles. Joshua sustained minor injuries and remains under medical observation, while tributes have poured in for those who lost their lives. May their soul rest in peace. Now that's it on this week's weekly news roundup. Join us again next weekend for the top stories shaping the world, Africa, and Nigeria. I am Favor Aham. Thank you so much for watching.